everybody? It's Mark and Luke from Lawncreeps Limited out here in Villa Park, Illinois, the Garden Village. We got a little question for you. Do you have dirt?
Or we do have soil.
Because if you don't have the biology down underneath this grass, then you don't have soil. You have dirt. Let's get right back into this. So episode 1, we kind of talked about how we can take a soil food web-based approach to lawns and gardens, of course. I think gardeners have adapted this much more open-armed. The farming world is getting hip to this as well. I think it's the lawn care gang that aren't quite there. You know, you've got dudes like John Perry that have brought this solid soil science and a good amount of the biology piece to the forefront, but we're still just kind of, you know, overworking this thing. We're overproducting this thing, if that's a word. We are doing a lot of inputs on our end. We can have these beautiful lawns and do very little. You know, I'm to the point where I can do that. I get it. You're in these new homes. You have to work it. You have to get it where it needs to be. But once you're kind of there, and then the next year you're pretty much there, do more and more, you know, nature stewardship, a partner with this thing, a partner with what's going on in here, a partner with all of this biology that's underneath our feet here. This is space. This is space exploration beyond what our telescopes can see. We have just begun to scratch the surface on soil. In terms of lawn care, it's been over the last handful of years only, 4, 5, 6 years, that people are getting hip to the organic piece to this thing, the you know, and now kind of the biology stuff. Let's not worry about just dousing this land with all of these chemicals that are seeping down into our water table, and we're only using 20% of these chemicals anyways, of these soluble inorganic fertilizers. Let's make this a truly self-sustaining, healthy grass. And as we do that and do that more, you know, we can do less, man. I've done very, very little to this lawn this year. Minimal, and it's been an absolute champ, an absolute beast. And maybe shame on me for not being a great vlogger and YouTuber. You know, there are some shots on my Instagram. You know, what shots have been visible in my videos. You know, this thing has been incredible, and that's with very, very little, because I have built this soil, and more specifically, I have built the soil biology. I have trusted in and teamed with my soil biology, thinking maybe in less terms of N's and P's and K's, and more in terms of, do I have, you know, the right organisms down here to do the right thing? In part 2, we talked about the soil structure piece via soil biology. In part 3, we talked about nutrient cycling via the soil biology. We're going to get deeper and deeper. It's going to be a long winter out here in Villa Park, and we're going to wax poetic on this. We're going to get into each individual player. Hey, what are the bacteria doing here? Hey, what are these earthworms doing? We're going to go there, and we're going to tie it all in. We're going to tie it all into how this all works as an ecosystem, and how we achieve that holy grail, which is soil humification. How do we get that beautiful, loose, humus-rich topsoil that roots can go down 5 feet deep and water can infiltrate? When I say infiltrate, I'm talking about infiltrate. I'm talking about the early spring rains and snow melt have infiltrated so deep down into that soil that your lawn withstands all of the summer issues, all of the summer drought and stress. So, you know, is it going to look absolutely stunning the entire year? No, it's not. There's going to be moments where it's not quite as good, but it's going to bounce right back out of it like a champ, and it's going to 97% of the time be badass, okay? So let's get into this thing. The natural disease suppression piece of this is very short, very simple, and it pretty much, if you have watched the first couple parts, you kind of know where I'm going here. So you're creating this environment, right, that you're fostering and growing all of the proper soil biology, all of the right sets of bacteria and fungi, and the fungal feeding nematodes and protozoa. All of those players are there doing their thing and taking care of stuff. So when you have all of these guys, you have got inhibition, consumption, competition. So the inhibition piece. A lot of this microbiology in our soil is actually antibiotic producing organisms. The antibiotics that we use as human beings is found in soil biology. Granted, it is not just, hey, I'm going to go and grab a handful of soil, throw it in a machine, and then come up with a pill for these guys to use. That's not, I mean, there's a lot of processes involved there, actually, beyond my Chicago knucklehead. When that plant feels like it needs it, like it's got a cold coming on, when we have a cold coming on, we take a vitamin C thing or some zinc, right? So the plant does the same thing. It releases those root exudates to pull the specific bacteria and fungi to grow them and create those antibiotics. There is that type of inhibition going on down in that soil. So that's the inhibition piece. We'll go with competition here, and that is you've got all of the good guys kind of swirling around that root zone, doing their thing. Everybody's just kind of vying for that food, those root exudates and the organic matter, the sloughed off root tips and all of that stuff, and just kind of creating castle walls around that root zone. And you're taking away time and space. You're taking away food. You're taking away the ability for those bad guys to really get a foothold in that root zone. So that's kind of the competition piece. You've got way more good guys, especially if you're doing the right things and you're not slapping a bunch of fungicides down every time you see a little brown spot in your grass. You've got a whole bunch of good guys, knights in shining armor, if you will, and that keeps the all the goons and the goblins away. So that's kind of the competition piece. And then the consumption obviously kind of goes hand in hand with that. When you've got that right mix, that right diversity, kind of keep everything in check. Basically having the fungal feeding nematodes and the bacterial feeding nematodes and the protozoa, having them there to be able to consume those disease causing organisms. They are looking to just get food. They don't care whether or not it's a bad guy or a good guy. They're just there consuming. So when you've got, again, you've got to have that web. You got to have that environment that grows the entire team, the entire nation, universe. It's a universe. It's a universe and then some. We have to have that mix. And how do we do that, right? We do that by not only what we do, but what we don't do, and just kind of growing and fostering these microorganisms in our soil. When we have this kind of natural disease suppression, then we can lay off the preventative toxic chemicals, the preventative fungicides. We don't need to reach for this fungicide. I had rust here at one point. My shoes were all orange when I would mow. It lasted for maybe 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, something like that. It was barely visible to the naked eye. I don't think it was. It did not affect the overall sheen or appearance of my lawn. My lawn was not orange tinted. It was only by looking down at my black shoes that I saw the rust. And then it went away, and it was not detrimental to the overall health of the grass. The diseases may be in certain weather conditions and certain temperatures. Again, going back to that universe of microbiology, there are so many different species that some of them are conducive to this temperature range. Some of them are conducive to that temperature range and that atmospheric condition, those weather conditions. So you got to be nimble. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You got to be Kenny Rogers up in here. Think of the time we can save. Think of the money we can save. Think of the environmental aspects and how we can partake in a more sensible approach to our ecosystem over here if we're not just constantly putting these toxic chemicals down into our soil. Well, that's basically it. That's basically what the disease suppression aspect of all of this is. Kind of goes hand in hand with everything we've been talking about. So this kid keeps distracting me. Who is this kid? But anyways, we're going to go ahead and cap it there. So we are starting to see how we can team with this biology. We can understand that vast universe underneath our flip-flops, a universe unto itself, a living thing. We're out here making it pretty for that curb appeal and for those aesthetics with the stripes and all of that, but this is more than that. We need to be growing on soil and not dirt. And how do you turn your dirt into soil? By teaming with that soil food web. If this interests you, stay with me. Like I said, we're going to hibernate down in the lab over there, and we are going to wax poetic on every piece of this. We're going to dissect it. We're going to put it back together. We're going to tie this whole thing in from the photosynthesis piece, converting that energy into biochemical energy that gets down into our soil, and that is all, you know, driving that ecosystem down there, and you know, cycling nutrients via that soil food web. And we're going to get into the carbon piece, and as these members die, they give up their carbon, and other members utilize that carbon, and we sequester all of that carbon in our soil. We keep that carbon in our soils, and we're just going to go. We're going to go there, and we're going to talk about it all winter, because it's already getting cold. I don't know if you can see my breath or not, but yeah, we're going to have a hell of a time doing it. We're going to have fun while we do it. So on that note, we're just going to go ahead and check you a little bit later.
Lawn creeps.